Earlier today, the Georgian parliament voted to override the Georgian president's veto of an anti-democratic foreign influence bill that fails to conform to European norms, effectively turning the bill into law. The United States condemns this action. In passing this law, the ruling Georgian Dream Party moved the country farther away from the European integration path and ignored the Euro-Atlantic aspirations of the Georgian people, who have taken to the streets for weeks to oppose this law. The Georgian Dream has disregarded the Council of Europe's Venice Commission legal assessment and that of Georgia's closest partners, who made clear their concerns that the law would stigmatize civil society and media and limit fundamental freedoms. The ruling party's actions and anti-Western rhetoric threaten Georgia's democratic trajectory, future economic security, EU membership, and also put the US-Georgia relationship at risk. Last week, Secretary Blinken announced that anyone who undermines democratic processes or institutions in Georgia, as well as their immediate family members, may be found ineligible for US visas under a newly announced policy precluding travel to the United States. The United States has also launched a comprehensive review of bilateral cooperation between the United States and Georgia. As Secretary Blinken said last week, we will take Georgia Dream's actions into account as we decide our own. The United States continues to stand by the Georgian people as they work for a democratic and Western future. It is unfortunate that Georgia's leaders are choosing to forego the steps needed. We encourage Georgia's governing officials to consider the relationship they want with the Euro-Atlantic community, rather than strengthening policies that are praised by authoritarians. More than 80% of the Georgian people want to see the country integrated into the EU and NATO. The Constitution of Georgia, proposed and backed by the current governing party, stipulates the pursuit of membership in these Euro-Atlantic institutions. All parties campaigned in support of this goal, but the governing party has adopted measures inconsistent with that course. The Georgian government can recommit to its democratic Euro-Atlantic trajectory by respecting the rule of law, addressing deficiencies in its electoral process, withdrawing and repealing anti-democratic legislation, and undertaking significant effort on outstanding EU accession reform recommendations. We have consistently urged the Georgian government this year to walk back its anti-democratic actions and return to its Euro-Atlantic path. We do not rule out further consequences if the Georgian government's direction does not change.
A good view of the fireworks that have been shot towards the police. We're now seeing more tear gas coming towards us and the protesters running away from that tear gas, obviously trying to get away from those plumes of smoke as they're coming towards us here. We're going to have to move as well because obviously, as you've already seen tonight, we do not want to get caught back in that cloud of tear gas. Standoff between the police and the protesters just behind us on Rustaveli. The protesters moved away from Parliament Square and now throwing fireworks towards this defensive line of the police. As you can see, tear gas is being now flung in the direction where the protesters is coming right towards us. In fact, we're going to need to move. Come on, move. Let's try and get out of it, right? Okay, well, we just got caught up completely in that tear gas and we've had to run down to where the protesters are. Lots of people, though, in the groups of protesters trying to help those who've been hit by the tear gas, coming around and pouring special liquids over our eyes to try and aid with the burning. But my goodness me, getting caught back in that really reminds me of the days back in Paris during the Yellow Vests when this was pretty much an everyday event. But for the moment, we're just going to take some shelter down here as that tear gas keeps coming towards the protesters from the police, as the police are trying to push the protesters far, far away from the Parliament. Tens of thousands of protesters have been coming out night after night. This is now, though, the fifth night of violence since the Georgian Prime Minister said that his country would be stopping all talks to ascend to the European Union at least until 2028. And the protesters have come out night after night because what they're trying to do is to overthrow the government. They don't feel that the elections that were held in October that saw Georgia Dream win 54%, that was confirmed by the Electoral Commission here in Georgia, which is independent. They don't accept that, and they say that those elections were fraudulent, and they want their Premier Minister to stand down. And they're being supported not just by their pro-European president, but by politicians in the EU as well, who are mooting the possibility of sanctions against top politicians here in Georgia as a result of the fact that they won't stand down and they won't hold fresh elections. Tensions, scenes, the last few nights, fireworks being thrown by the protesters towards the police, and that tear gas just coming and coming and coming. It doesn't feel as if this is likely to end soon. We know that in the next few weeks the pro-European president is supposed to stand down. She has said she won't do that because she says she's the only legitimately, democratically elected person in the country. She wants power to be handed over to her so that fresh elections can be held, and the protesters say they're going to keep coming out night after night after night until their government is overthrown. Charlotte Tubinsky here in Tbilisi.
This is a new fascist coup because the most dangerous forces are involved. They are dangerous in the sense that it is difficult to resist them. It is difficult for Georgians to resist. Young people, women and underage children are put on barricades and they themselves hide behind them. During all the days of this protest, not a single leader of the opposition was visible. They only sponsor what is happening with money received from abroad, while they hide behind the backs of young people. The most unpleasant and meanest thing they could do was hide behind the backs of underage children, the so-called Gen Z, who grew up under Saakashvili, grew up on fast food and Coca-Cola, on the complete denial of the older generation. And let the whole world watch what they do. The way to Europe, it turns out, lies through the beating of policemen, through arson with Molotov cocktails, through the destruction of the historic Parliament building.